Imagine dawn breaking over a frost-tipped stadium somewhere in East Germany, a silence that feels electric, like the breath before an explosion of movement. The air is cold, the sky pale, and a young athlete steps forward, spikes biting into the red track. His breath clouds in front of him as he lowers himself into the starting blocks. This is the moment where time seems to stop, the calm before the gunfire. This is the world of Sören Schlegel, a man whose life would be measured not just in seconds, but in heartbeats, in courage, and in the fire that burned beneath his feet. He was born on December 28, 1960, in the small town of Bad Schlema, a quiet mining town tucked in the Erzgebirge hills of the former East Germany. It was a place of hard work and tougher people, where the rumble of industry filled the air and the rhythm of life was defined by labor and endurance. But while others measured strength by what they could carry, young Sören measured it by how fast he could move. Even as a boy, he was always running, through fields, between streets, racing the wind, chasing something no one else could see. He wasn't born into privilege or athletic lineage. His father worked long hours in the mines, his hands calloused and blackened from the dust. His mother managed the home with quiet resilience, yet they both saw something in their son. A spark, a focus that belonged to the truly driven. When he ran, he didn't just run to play. He ran like he had somewhere to go, like the finish line was a doorway to another life. When he first stepped onto a real track, the feeling was like lightning. The surface under his feet felt alive, the lane stretching out like destiny itself. Sprinting wasn't just a sport. It was a declaration. The moment his fingers touched the starting line, he understood what it meant to be completely alive. The stillness before the gun, the explosion of sound, the blur of colors. It was a feeling he would chase for the rest of his life. At school, Sören wasn't the loudest or the most outgoing, but when it came to running, he spoke louder than anyone else ever could. His early coach noticed that he had the kind of natural acceleration that can't be taught, the lightning start, the drive phase that made every step look like it belonged in slow motion compared to others. "You're not just quick," the coach told him once after a race. "You're meant for this." That phrase stuck with him. Meant for this. Soon, the long mornings and cold evenings became his life. His days started before sunrise, the air sharp and quiet, the stadium lights flickering to life as he warmed up. He stretched, did drills, then practiced his starts again and again, the rhythm of "on your marks, set," followed by the snap of his body forward, the sound of spikes tearing through the track, the echo of each step fading into the still air. Every movement was a battle against the limits of his own body. Training was grueling. His legs burned, lungs caught fire. But he learned to love the pain, because pain meant progress. He spent endless hours studying his form, visualizing every race, measuring every stride. To him, perfection wasn't a dream. It was an obsession. And then came the breakthrough. The day everything aligned. The temperature, the wind, his body, his mind. On that day, Sören ran 10:20 seconds for the 100 meters, a time that made him one of the fastest men in East Germany. When he crossed the line, he didn't shout or jump. He just smiled faintly, feeling the fire in his chest and the pulse of something greater. A quiet knowing that his work was beginning to pay off. But as every athlete learns, success is never a straight sprint. Soon after, during one of his intense training sessions, he felt a sharp pull in his hamstring, a whisper of pain that quickly became a scream. For days he tried to brush it off, convinced it was nothing. But one explosive start later, the pain flared again, forcing him to stop mid-stride, clutching his leg. The fear hit him harder than the pain itself. What if this is the end? What if my body can't keep up with my dream? Rehabilitation tested him in ways training never could. Gone were the crowds, the adrenaline, the rush. It was just him, the cold therapy room, the endless repetition of stretching, icing, strengthening, the grind of healing. Nights were long, filled with doubt and frustration. But each morning, he returned to the track. Slowly, his strength came back. Slowly, his stride lengthened again. Slowly, the fire in his chest reignited. By the time the 1980 Summer Olympics arrived, Sören was ready. The world was watching, the stadiums roared, and the East German team carried the weight of an entire nation's expectation. Walking into the Olympic arena, surrounded by the best athletes on the planet, he could feel his heart drum against his ribs. He whispered to himself, "This is it. This is where I belong." The starter's gun cracked through the air. For those 10 seconds, the noise, the pressure, the fear, everything vanished. There was only movement, only speed, only that wild, pure rush of being in the moment where nothing else matters. He crossed the line with pride, not as the champion, but as a man who had earned his place among the world's fastest. The Olympics changed him. It wasn't just the competition, but the realization that sport was about more than medals. It was about connection, about testing the limits of human potential, about proving to yourself that you can stand among giants and still be worthy. After the games, Sören continued to train, to race, to chase the feeling of perfection. But as time went on, the competition grew younger, faster, more advanced. Injuries lingered. Recovery took longer. He felt the tug of time. And eventually, he knew the moment had come, the moment every athlete faces, to step away from the starting blocks and into a new chapter. But Sören never truly stopped running. He began coaching, mentoring, guiding young sprinters who reminded him of himself, hungry, fearless, uncertain. He taught them that sprinting wasn't just about the start or the finish, but about the courage in between. He reminded them that speed begins in the mind long before it shows in the legs. To his athletes, he often said, "Every race is a mirror. You don't run against others, you run against yourself. You run to find out who you are when the world is watching, and who you remain when no one is." Away from the track, Sören lived quietly. He enjoyed the simple pleasures, a long walk in the woods, the crisp mountain air, evenings spent in reflection. He loved classical music, the stillness it brought. He believed that every note, like every stride, had rhythm, balance, and meaning. Sometimes he would visit the stadiums where he once trained, standing by the lanes that had carried his dreams. He'd watch the new generation sprint, faster, smoother, stronger, and smile. The sport had evolved, but the essence was timeless. The pursuit of speed, the hunger to be better, the love for the run. Those things never fade. Sören Schlegel's story is not just about sprinting. It's about resilience, about rising from humble beginnings to touch greatness, about falling and standing again, about learning that victory is not a medal, it's the journey itself. He taught the world that sometimes the greatest speed comes not from how fast you run, but from how fearlessly you chase what you love. And as the sun sets on the track where his story began, one can almost hear the echo of spikes on the surface, the rush of wind, the thundering heartbeat of a man who never stopped moving forward. So to everyone watching this, remember, you don't have to be an Olympian to chase greatness. You just have to start. You have to believe in your own power to keep running, no matter how many times you fall. Because every finish line is just another beginning. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Behind the Medal, where we celebrate the journeys, the struggles, and the triumphs that define the true spirit of sport.